Ever feel like the world of drug development and AI
Oh, yeah.
is moving at warp speed?
Yes.
We get it.
Yeah.
That's why today we're taking a deep dive into a brand new draft guidance from the FDA on using AI to support regulatory decisions for drugs and biological products.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as your cheat sheet
Right.
to understanding how the FDA views AI in this space.
And it's a hot topic
Yeah.
for good reason.
For sure.
AI has the potential to really shake things up.
Right.
Speeding up drug development, making it safer, maybe even leading to entirely new treatments.
Okay, but how do we make sure these AI models are reliable when patient safety is on the line? That's a big deal.
That's exactly where this guidance comes in.
Okay.
It's all about building credibility for AI models used in the drug life cycle.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
First things first, what's the scope of this guidance? What's it really about?
This guidance focuses specifically on AI models used to generate evidence for those big regulatory decisions the FDA makes on drug safety, effectiveness, or quality. Imagine using AI to streamline clinical trials or even automate quality checks in manufacturing.
So it's about making sure the FDA can trust the data coming from these AI systems, especially when it comes to those critical decisions about a drug safety, effectiveness, and quality.
You nailed it.
Okay.
And to build that trust, the FDA is proposing a 7-step framework
Okay.
to establish and evaluate what they call AI model credibility.
Right.
They want to know these models are trustworthy, meaning their outputs are reliable and accurate.
7 steps.
Yeah,
Sounds pretty thorough.
it is.
Walk me through it.
Okay.
What's step 1?
Step 1 is all about clearly defining the question the AI model is supposed to answer.
Okay.
It's like setting a target.
Right.
What's the specific issue this AI is trying to solve?
Could you give me a real-world example?
Of course.
Okay.
Let's say you're using an AI model in a clinical trial. The question could be, can this AI model pinpoint which patients might experience a specific side effect from this drug?
Right.
Or in manufacturing, it might be, can this AI system tell if medicine vials are filled to the right level?
Okay, so define the problem before trying to solve it with AI.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Next.
Step 2 is defining the AI model's context of use.
Okay.
This is where you outline exactly what the AI is supposed to do, what its role is.
Got it.
Will it be the sole decision maker, or will its output be combined with other evidence?
So is the AI calling the shots, or is it more like a consultant?
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
It's also about considering what other information, like results from clinical trials or lab tests, will be used alongside the AI's findings to make decisions.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we've got the question and the context.
Right.
Now we have to figure out how much weight we should actually give this AI's opinion, right?
Exactly. And that's where step 3 comes in. Assessing the AI model risk. It's where things get really interesting.
Okay, break it down for me.
All right.
What goes into determining how risky it is to use a particular AI model?
It boils down to 2 main factors.
Okay.
The first is model influence, which is how much weight the AI's output actually carries in the decision-making process. Is it the star of the show or just part of the supporting cast?
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And the second factor?
The second factor is decision consequence.
Okay.
This considers how big of a deal it would be if the AI got something wrong.
So if the AI is helping to decide the dosage of a powerful new medication, the decision consequence is pretty high, right? Even a small error could be a problem.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
To help visualize this, the guidance includes a model risk matrix.
Okay.
This matrix maps out the risk level by looking at both the model's influence and those potential consequences we talked about.
So if the AI has a lot of influence and the consequences of a mistake are serious,
Right.
we're in a high-risk situation.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the flip side is also true.
Yeah.
If the AI's influence is low and the consequences are minor, it's considered a low-risk situation.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So once we've figured out the risk, it's time to prove that this AI can actually do what it claims. Right.
That's step 4. Developing a solid plan to establish the AI model's credibility.
Okay.
Basically, it's about showing that the AI can actually walk the walk.
So it's like a resume for the AI,
Exactly.
proving it's qualified for the job.
And just like with a resume, the level of detail required here depends on the risk assessment we talked about earlier.
Okay.
For those high-risk models, the FDA wants to see a very detailed plan.
Right.
For low-risk models, the requirements might not be as stringent.
So high stakes mean higher expectations.
Exactly.
What kind of information goes into this credibility assessment plan?
Well, for starters,
Yeah.
sponsors need to describe the AI model itself, including its inputs, outputs, and the specific type of AI architecture used.
Uh,
For example, if it's a neural network, they need to explain how it was designed and how it works.
then they need to explain the data used to train the AI.
Yes.
This is where things like bias could become a problem, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The FDA is going to be looking at this training data very carefully to see if it's truly representative of the real world.
Mm.
If not, it could lead to bias or inaccurate results.
So you can't just feed any data into the AI and expect good results.
Right.
What else goes into this plan?
Well, sponsors also need to detail how they trained the AI,
Okay.
how they prevented issues like overfitting or underfitting.
Yeah.
They need to show the FDA they've taken steps to avoid these pitfalls.
Could you explain what overfitting is?
Imagine a student who memorizes the answers for a test but can't actually apply the concepts to different problems.
Right.
That's overfitting.
Got it.
The AI learns the training data too well and can't generalize to new data. Underfitting is the opposite.
Okay.
The AI is too simple and can't learn from the data.
Got it.
Yeah.
So sponsors need to show they've taught the AI to think critically,
Exactly.
not just parrot back what it's learned.
Right.
And then there are the performance metrics.
Yeah.
These are things like accuracy, sensitivity, and specificity,
Right.
which tell us how well the AI is actually doing its job.
Yeah.
So they give us a way to measure how well the AI is performing.
Exactly.
What else needs to be in the plan?
The sponsor needs to describe their process for evaluating the model after it's fully trained.
Okay.
How do they make sure the data used for testing isn't the same data used for training?
Right.
This is critical to see if it can work on new data it hasn't seen before.
It's like giving the AI a pop quiz to see if it really understands the material.
They also need to report how the AI performed on this test data using those same metrics we talked about before. And finally, they need to address any limitations of the AI model and be upfront about any potential weaknesses.
So complete transparency is key here.
Yes.
It sounds like step 4 is all about creating this comprehensive plan
It is.
that really showcases how the AI model works,
Great.
how it was built, tested, and how it performs.
That's a great summary.
Okay.
This plan has to convince the FDA that the AI model is credible and reliable for its intended use.
Yeah.
It's a high bar.
This all happens before the sponsor even starts using the AI.
It does.
It seems like the FDA is setting a high standard for AI in drug development.
They are.
Okay.
And for good reason.
Right.
Patient safety is paramount.
Yeah.
And they need to make sure these AI models are up to the task.
Okay, let's say the sponsor has gone through all this and has a great plan.
Yeah.
What happens next?
That brings us to step 5,
Okay.
which is all about putting that plan into action and executing those assessments.
All right.
It's time to see if the AI can live up to the hype.
Got it.
But there's something important that happens before we even get to this point.
Okay. What's that?
The FDA strongly encourages sponsors to get their feedback early on,
Okay.
ideally even before submitting any formal applications.
Got it.
It's a chance to make sure everyone's on the same page before things move forward.
So it's like getting the FDA's stamp of approval on the plan before hitting the go button.
Exactly.
Okay.
This early engagement can help avoid potential roadblocks down the line
Yeah.
and make sure the sponsor's plan is robust enough to meet the FDA's expectations.
Sounds like a smart move for sponsors.
It is.
What kind of engagement options are there?
It really depends on how the sponsor plans to use the AI model.
Good.
There are formal meetings,
Yeah.
like a pre-investigational new drug application, pre-IND meeting.
Right.
This gives them a chance to sit down with the FDA and hash out the details of their plans for the AI.
Just like a face-to-face to make sure everyone's on the same page?
Right.
Okay.
There are also other options,
Yeah.
like reaching out to specific centers within the FDA. For example, if a sponsor wants to use AI in clinical trial design, they could contact the FDA Center for Clinical Trial Innovation.
So there's a whole menu of options.
There is.
But the key takeaway here is that engaging with the FDA early on is highly recommended.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's a valuable opportunity to get feedback,
Yeah.
make sure everyone's aligned,
Right.
and ultimately smooth the path for using AI in drug development.
Okay, so we've defined the question, the context of use,
Yep.
assess the risk, made a plan,
Right.
talked to the FDA,
Yeah.
and put the plan into action.
Yep.
What's step 6?
Step 6 is all about documentation.
Okay.
The sponsor compiles all the results from those assessments, plus any bumps in the road,
Yeah.
into a credibility assessment report.
So it's like the AI's report card
Exactly.
showing how well it performed.
And the FDA is going to be looking at it closely to see if the AI passed the test.
So it's showtime for the AI. The sponsor lays out all the evidence in this report to prove that their AI model is trustworthy.
That's it.
Okay.
This report needs to clearly show that the AI model is credible based on the risk level and context of use we discussed earlier.
This report gets submitted to the FDA as part of a formal application, right?
It depends on how the sponsor chose to engage with the FDA.
Okay.
It could be part of a meeting package.
Got it.
Or a standalone document within a regulatory submission.
But no matter how it gets there, this credibility assessment report is super important for the FDA's evaluation, right?
Absolutely. It represents all the work the sponsor put into developing and validating their AI model.
Yeah.
It's the culmination of all those previous steps.
Okay, so last step, step 7.
Right.
What happens here?
This is the moment of truth.
Okay.
Both the sponsor and the FDA review all the evidence in the report and decide if the AI model is truly fit for its intended use.
So after all that work, it comes down to this final evaluation.
Exactly. If the FDA isn't convinced, there are a few things that can happen.
So it's not a simple pass or fail.
No, it's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
For example, the sponsor might choose to downgrade the model's influence and bring in additional evidence to support the AI's findings.
Okay.
Or they might go back and redo some of their assessments to address the FDA's concerns.
So it's a back and forth working together to make sure the AI is truly ready for prime time.
Exactly.
Okay.
The FDA is aiming for a collaborative process.
Yeah.
With the ultimate goal of making sure AI is used safely and effectively in drug development.
Makes sense.
These 7 steps offer a roadmap for getting there.
That makes a lot of sense. It's thorough, but flexible enough to adapt to different situations.
I agree.
Yeah.
And while they don't endorse any specific AI approach or technology, the FDA makes it clear that they're excited about AI's potential to improve drug development and patient care.
That's great to hear.
It is.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground with these 7 steps.
We have.
But there's one more important concept the guidance mentions. Life cycle maintenance for the AI model.
Right.
What's that about?
This is a crucial concept.
Yeah.
Especially when AI models are used over a long period, like in pharmaceutical manufacturing.
Right.
These models can be very sensitive to changes in the data they're using.
So what worked well today might not work so well tomorrow if the data changes.
Exactly.
Got it.
That's why it's so important to keep an eye on how the model is performing.
Okay.
To make sure it stays reliable over time.
It's like getting regular checkups to make sure the AI is still healthy and doing its job.
A perfect analogy.
Okay.
And just like with our own health, early detection is key.
Right.
The FDA recommends a risk-based approach to this life cycle maintenance.
Okay.
The higher the risk associated with the model, the more oversight it needs.
So high-risk models need more frequent and rigorous monitoring.
Precisely.
Compared to low-risk models.
And if the sponsor spots any significant changes in the model's performance, they might need to reevaluate or even retrain the model to ensure it's still accurate and reliable.
So you don't just set it and forget it.
Nope.
AI models need continuous care and attention to stay trustworthy over time.
You got it. Okay.
This ongoing monitoring and maintenance is especially important in areas like pharmaceutical manufacturing,
Right.
where AI could be making real-time decisions that impact drug quality and safety.
It makes me think of those AI systems that control manufacturing processes in highly automated factories. Any hiccup in the AI could have a ripple effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why the FDA wants sponsors to have detailed plans for managing these AI models throughout their entire life cycle.
Okay, so to sum it up, this draft guidance provides a clear framework for establishing and maintaining the credibility of AI models.
Exactly.
Okay.
And while it focuses on AI, these principles of risk assessment, validation, and ongoing monitoring can apply to any technology used in drug development.
Yeah.
It's all about making sure patients are getting safe and effective medications.
Regardless of the technology used.
That's reassuring to hear.
It is.
It sounds like this guidance is just the start of a larger conversation about AI and healthcare.
It is.
It's a very thorough and thoughtful approach, especially when we're talking about something as important as patient safety.
I think you're right. AI is rapidly evolving.
Yeah.
And I expect we'll see even more innovative applications emerge in drug development.
And with this guidance, the FDA is signaling that they're ready to embrace this innovation while keeping patient safety as the top priority.
I agree.
Okay.
It's a fascinating time to be following this field.
Yeah,
And I'm excited to see what the future holds for AI and drug development.
me too. And for our listeners who are eager to learn more, we'll provide a link to the full FDA guidance document in our show notes.
Great idea.
It's definitely worth a read.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that brings us to the end of part 1 of our deep dive into this important topic.
Okay.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dig even deeper into how this framework might play out in different scenarios. Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive
Thanks for having me.
into the FDA's draft guidance on using AI in drug development.
All right.
In part 1, we laid out that 7-step framework for establishing AI model credibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty comprehensive roadmap.
Definitely.
When you say,
Definitely. It's a lot to take in.
yeah,
But it's great to see the FDA taking such a thorough approach.
it is.
Now, I'm curious to see how this framework actually plays out in the real world.
Okay.
Can we walk through some examples?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's revisit those hypothetical scenarios from the guidance.
Okay.
Starting with the clinical trial example we touched on earlier.
Okay, so in that scenario, we were talking about using an AI model to predict which patients might be at high risk for a serious side effect from a new drug.
Right.
Okay.
And because we're dealing with a potentially life-threatening side effect, both the AI's influence on the decision-making and the consequences of a mistake would be high.
So we're in that high-risk zone on the model risk matrix.
What would the FDA want to see in the credibility assessment plan for this type of AI?
They would want to see very strong evidence that the AI can accurately identify those high-risk patients.
Right.
The sponsor would need to show how they ensured the training data was diverse and representative of the intended patient population.
No cutting corners when patient safety is at stake.
Absolutely not.
Right.
And the FDA would really scrutinize the model's performance metrics. Those accuracy, sensitivity, and specificity numbers we talked about, they'd be looking for a very high level of accuracy and reliability.
The sponsor would have to make a rock-solid case that the AI is up to the task.
Exactly.
Okay.
They'd also need to clearly address how they mitigated any potential biases in the model,
Right.
especially those biases that could lead to certain groups of patients being misclassified.
It sounds like they'd be looking for proof that the AI is not only accurate but also fair in its predictions.
You got it.
Okay.
And since the AI's output could be used to make critical decisions about patient care, the FDA would want to see a really robust lifecycle maintenance plan.
So the AI's performance is tracked over time to make sure it stays accurate even as new data emerges.
Precisely.
Got it.
Regular checkups for the AI are essential in a high-risk scenario like this.
Makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Okay, that's a great example of how the framework applies to a clinical trial.
Okay.
Now let's shift gears to that manufacturing example from the guidance.
Okay, so in this example, an AI system is being used to check the fill volume of vials during the manufacturing process.
Right, and that's a critical quality control check because if a vial is underfilled, it could lead to medication errors.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But in this example,
Yeah.
the manufacturer also independently verifies the fill volume on a sample of vials.
So the AI isn't the only one making the decision about whether the product is good to go.
Exactly.
Okay.
That means the AI's influence is lower in this scenario,
Right.
even though the consequences of a mistake could still be significant.
So we're looking at a medium risk situation here.
We are.
How would that change the credibility assessment plan?
The FDA would still expect a thorough evaluation of the AI model,
Okay.
but the level of scrutiny might not be as intense as in that high-risk clinical trial example.
So they might not require as much data
Yeah,
or such strict performance metrics.
that's right.
Okay.
The plan would need to be tailored to the specific risk level and context of use.
Makes sense.
It's a flexible framework that adapts to the situation.
I like that.
Yeah,
It seems like common sense.
It is.
Higher risk requires more evidence.
exactly.
Okay.
And even though the requirements might be less stringent,
Yeah.
the FDA would still want to understand how the model was developed,
Right.
trained,
Right.
and how it performs.
They'd still want to see that the sponsor has done their due diligence to make sure the AI is reliable.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But because of that independent verification step,
Right.
they might be willing to accept a slightly lower level of accuracy from the AI model.
So it's a balancing act,
Yeah.
weighing the benefits of AI against the need to ensure patient safety.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And even in this medium risk scenario, the FDA would still want a solid plan for monitoring the AI's performance over time.
Just like those regular checkups we talked about.
Exactly.
Oh,
Because
okay.
even if the AI is performing well today,
Yeah.
things can change.
Right.
The manufacturing process could be tweaked, equipment could be upgraded,
Got it.
or even small changes in the raw materials could throw off the AI.
So ongoing monitoring is key to making sure the AI stays on track.
Definitely. It's
Right.
all about ensuring that the AI remains a trustworthy tool
Right.
for maintaining quality and protecting patients.
Okay, so those two examples really illustrate how this framework can be applied in different situations.
They do.
And it highlights how important that initial risk assessment is.
It is.
Okay. And while those examples focused on clinical trials and manufacturing,
Right. These principles can be applied to other areas of drug development, too.
so if a company wanted to use AI to analyze huge amounts of data to identify potential new drug targets, they'd still need to go through these same steps.
Exactly.
Okay.
The question,
Yeah.
the context of use,
Got it.
and the risk assessment would all need to be carefully considered.
It sounds like a robust system for making sure AI is being used responsibly in drug development.
I agree.
Okay.
And it reflects the FDA's commitment to staying ahead of the curve when it comes to new technologies and ensuring they ultimately benefit patients.
It's encouraging to see the FDA embracing innovation while still prioritizing patient safety.
It is?
Okay, so we've talked about the framework and walked through some examples.
Yeah.
Now, there's one more thing I'm curious about, this idea of early engagement with the FDA.
Okay.
Why is it so important?
The FDA emphasizes early engagement throughout the guidance.
Okay.
And for good reason. It's a chance for sponsors to get valuable feedback on their plans before they get too far down the road.
So it's like getting a second opinion from an expert.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
The FDA can provide insights on the planned use of the AI,
Right.
the level of rigor needed for the credibility assessment, and any potential challenges the sponsor might face.
It sounds like it could save a lot of headaches down the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If the sponsor knows the FDA's expectations up front,
Yeah.
they can design their process to meet those expectations and avoid running into problems later on.
It's always better to be proactive.
It is.
So how can sponsors engage with the FDA early on?
The guidance outlines a number of options, depending on what the sponsor needs and where they are in the development process.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
For example, if a sponsor is considering using AI in a specific drug development program,
Right.
they can request a formal meeting with the FDA.
That could be like a pre-IND meeting we discussed before.
Exactly.
Right.
Or it could be a meeting focused specifically on the AI aspects of their plan.
So it's a chance to have a face-to-face with the FDA and really hash out the details.
Exactly.
Okay.
And there are other options, too.
Yeah.
For instance, if a sponsor is interested in using AI for clinical trial design, they can reach out to the FDA Center for Clinical Trial Innovation.
So sponsors need to figure out which FDA program or contact is the best fit for their specific AI application.
That's right.
Okay.
But regardless of the specific route they choose,
Right.
the message is clear. Talk to the FDA early.
It seems like that early dialogue can be really beneficial.
It can.
It can provide insights,
Yeah.
streamline the process, and ultimately make it easier to incorporate AI into drug development.
I agree. Okay.
It's a win-win for everyone involved.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about the 7-step framework,
Yeah.
explored real-world examples.
And emphasized the importance of early engagement with the FDA.
Right.
Now, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the bigger picture.
Okay.
Where do you see AI going in the world of drug development?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
AI has the potential to revolutionize nearly every aspect of drug development,
Okay.
from the initial discovery of new drug targets to the design of clinical trials and even the manufacturing process itself.
So it's not just hype. AI is going to really change things.
I believe so.
Yeah.
We're already seeing some amazing examples of AI in action.
Okay, like what?
For instance, AI is being used to analyze massive data sets of genetic information to identify potential new drug targets for diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's.
It's like having a superpowered research assistant who can sift through mountains of data and find things human researchers might miss.
Exactly.
Right.
And AI is also being used to optimize the design of clinical trials,
Okay.
helping to recruit the right patients,
Yeah.
select the most appropriate endpoints,
Yeah.
and even predict the likelihood of success.
So AI can make clinical trials more efficient,
You can?
cost-effective,
Mhm.
and ultimately more likely to succeed.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And in manufacturing,
Yeah.
AI can monitor processes in real time, identify potential quality issues before they become big problems,
Right.
and even adjust manufacturing parameters on the fly to optimize production.
It's like having an AI quality control expert working 24/7.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So I see a future where AI is seamlessly integrated into every stage of the drug development process,
Right.
making it faster, more efficient, and more successful in bringing new treatments to patients.
That's an exciting vision.
It is.
But I imagine there are also some challenges and things we need to be careful about.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
As AI becomes more deeply embedded in drug development,
Hmm.
we need to be very mindful of potential biases,
Right.
making sure these systems are fair in their applications.
Yeah.
We also need to think carefully about the role of human oversight in an AI-driven world.
So it's not just about developing the technology.
Right.
It's about developing it responsibly.
Exactly.
Okay.
We need to make sure that AI enhances human capabilities, not replaces them entirely.
Yeah.
And we need to have honest conversations about the potential risks and benefits of this technology.
It's a complex landscape.
It is.
And this FDA guidance seems like a great starting point for navigating it.
I agree.
Okay.
It lays a solid foundation for the responsible use of AI in drug development.
And for our listeners who want to learn more about this topic,
Yes.
we'll link to the full FDA guidance document in our show notes.
Great idea.
It's definitely worth a read for anyone working in drug development.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that wraps up part 2 of our deep dive into the FDA's guidance on AI in drug development.
Okay.
Join us for part 3,
Sounds good.
where we'll discuss some specific considerations for making sure AI models are credible at different stages of the drug development process.
Okay. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
You've been exploring this new draft guidance from the FDA on using AI in drug development.
Right.
So far, we've covered that 7-step framework for establishing AI model credibility and looked at how it might play out in real-world scenarios.
Yeah, it's been a great overview.
Now, in this final part of our deep dive, let's zoom in on a few key considerations that are especially important for making sure these AI models are truly trustworthy.
Okay, sounds good.
What's the first thing that comes to mind?
One of the most fundamental aspects, and something that the FDA really hammers home in the guidance, is the importance of high-quality data.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You can't expect an AI to make good decisions if it's learning from bad data.
Right.
It's like the old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The performance of any AI model is ultimately limited by the quality of its training data.
Okay.
If the data is biased, incomplete, or inaccurate,
Yeah.
the AI model is unlikely to produce reliable results.
And when we're talking about drug development, where patient safety is the top priority, that's a huge concern.
Right.
We can't afford to take those kinds of risks.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the key things to consider when it comes to ensuring data quality for AI in drug development?
Well, first and foremost,
Yeah.
the data needs to be relevant to the specific problem the AI is trying to solve.
Okay.
It needs to include all the important variables
Right.
and cover a wide enough range of conditions
Yeah.
to accurately reflect the real-world scenario.
So for example, if you're developing an AI model to predict how well a new cancer drug will work,
Right.
the training data should include information on a wide variety of patients
Yeah,
with different cancer types,
Yeah.
different stages of the disease, and different treatment histories.
precisely. Okay.
The more diverse and representative the data, the better equipped the AI will be to make accurate and unbiased predictions.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
And what about the accuracy of the data itself?
How do you ensure that the information feeding into the AI is actually correct?
That's another crucial aspect.
Yeah.
The data needs to be accurate and reliable,
Yeah.
meaning it's free from errors and inconsistencies.
Right.
This often involves meticulous data cleaning and validation processes to identify and correct any errors.
It sounds like human expertise is still essential in this process.
It is.
You can't just throw data at an AI and expect it to magically figure everything out.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
AI is a powerful tool, but it's not a replacement for human judgment and expertise.
Yeah.
We still need experts to curate the data, look for potential biases,
Right.
and ultimately make sure the data is fit for purpose.
So it's a collaboration, a partnership between human intelligence and artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
Okay.
And as AI models become more complex,
Yeah.
that human oversight is only going to become more important.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of good data.
Right.
But once you have that data, how do you actually make sure the AI is learning the right things from it? How
Yeah.
do you validate these models?
That's another big challenge in this field.
Yeah.
Validating AI models for drug development is complex,
Right.
and the FDA guidance really digs into the details.
What are some of the biggest hurdles sponsors need to overcome when they're validating these models?
Mhm.
I imagine it's not a walk in the park.
You're right, it's not.
Okay.
One of the biggest challenges is that AI models can be quite complex and difficult to understand.
Yeah.
Their decision-making processes are often hidden within layers of algorithms,
Right.
making it tough to see exactly how they reach their conclusions.
So it's like they're operating in a black box.
That's a great way to put it.
We feed in data, we get results,
Right.
but we don't really know what's happening in between.
And this lack of transparency can be a real roadblock for regulators
Yeah.
who need to be able to trust and understand the AI's decision-making.
So how do sponsors address this black box problem?
There are a few approaches.
Okay.
One is to use techniques that make the AI's decision-making more transparent.
Right.
This might involve using simpler models,
Got it.
developing ways to visualize the AI's reasoning,
Okay.
or even creating explainable AI systems.
Explainable AI.
Yeah,
That sounds interesting.
it is.
What's that all about?
Essentially, it's about building AI systems that can explain their reasoning in a way that humans can understand.
Got it.
It's like giving the AI a voice
Right.
so it can explain its logic.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If we're going to trust these AI models with important decisions, we need to be able to understand how they're thinking.
Exactly.
Okay.
Another challenge is that AI models often need a huge amount of data to train and validate effectively.
And in drug development, where data can be scarce, expensive, or contain sensitive patient information,
Right.
that can be a major obstacle.
It certainly can.
Yeah.
It highlights the need for creative solutions, like
Uh-huh.
using synthetic data, combining data from multiple sources, or
Right.
even collaborating with other organizations to pool data resources.
So it's about finding ways to get the most value out of the data we have.
Exactly.
Okay.
And as AI becomes even more advanced,
Yeah.
I think we'll see even more innovative approaches to data sharing and collaboration in drug development.
We've touched on this throughout our conversation, but I want to circle back to the idea of human oversight.
Okay.
It seems like that's a recurring theme when we talk about AI in drug development.
It is.
What's your perspective on what that oversight should look like in practice?
That's a critical question.
Yeah.
And the FDA's guidance is very clear that they're not ready to give AI complete control.
Okay.
They're advocating for a balanced approach,
Right.
one that combines the power of AI with the wisdom and experience of human experts.
So it's not about replacing human experts with AI.
Right.
It's about finding ways for them to work together.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think that's a very smart approach.
Yeah.
AI is still a relatively new technology.
Right. And we're still learning how to use it effectively and responsibly.
What kind of roles should human experts play in this AI-driven world of drug development?
They should be involved at every stage.
Okay.
From defining the problem the AI is trying to solve
Yeah.
to curating and validating the data,
Right.
overseeing the model's training,
Okay.
and ultimately interpreting and acting on the AI's outputs.
So they're not just checking the AI's homework at the end.
Right.
They're involved throughout the entire process.
That's right.
Okay.
Human experts bring so much to the table: knowledge, experience, ethical judgment,
Yeah.
things AI can't replicate.
They can spot things AI might miss.
Right.
Biases, red flags.
Right.
They can help make sure the AI is being used safely and ethically.
And as AI systems become even more sophisticated and autonomous, this human oversight will become even more crucial.
Got it.
It's like having a safety net in place
Yeah.
to make sure the AI doesn't go off track. And at the end of the day, it's the humans who are accountable for patient safety, not the AI.
Absolutely.
Right.
AI is a powerful tool,
Yeah.
but it's still a tool.
Right.
The decisions and the responsibility rest with the human experts.
Right.
That's something we always need to remember.
Okay, as we wrap up our deep dive,
Yeah.
it's clear that the FDA is taking a very thoughtful and proactive approach to bringing AI into drug development.
They are.
Their 7-step framework provides a solid foundation,
It does.
and they're really stressing the importance of data quality, validation,
Yeah.
and human oversight.
I agree.
It's a very thorough approach,
It is.
one that acknowledges the immense potential of AI
Right.
while recognizing the importance of patient safety and drug quality.
Absolutely.
For our listeners who work in this field,
Yeah,
the key message is that the FDA is open to using AI in drug development,
they are.
but they want to make sure it's done right. This draft guidance is a fantastic roadmap for sponsors who want to leverage AI to bring new treatments to patients faster and more efficiently.
I agree.
It's a really exciting time to be working at the crossroads of AI and healthcare.
It is.
The FDA is playing a crucial role in shaping the future of this field,
Yeah.
and I can't wait to see what unfolds.
Me too.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the FDA's new draft guidance on AI.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a fascinating conversation, and I hope our listeners have gained valuable insights.
Me too.
As always, be sure to check out our show notes for links to the resources we discussed.
Great idea.
Until next time,
See you then.
stay curious and keep diving deep.